Welcome to the Autopsy Room. I'm your man James, and today we're diving into a mystery known as the Mothman. Do you believe it? Do you or not? With so many sightings, this story can't go unnoticed. So, what we're going to go ahead and do is get the gurney out. Let's wheel it in. Barkley, where's that dog at? Get the gurney in here. Let's unload it. Let's put all the facts on the table. Let's dissect this thing. Now, before we get in too far, just remember I'm here by myself. I got to read this script. I'm supposed to stay on script, but don't tell her I'm going off a little bit right now. I got to read the script. I got to push buttons on the computer to get things flash up on the... Yeah, it's just been a mess. But do you hear that? Barkley, you hear that? The impressive flaps of a mysterious winged creature. Big wings as a gust of wind blows by your ears. And he's got these big red eyes staring at you. Legend tells of chilling flying creature dubbed as the Mothman. Now, this thing haunted a little town called Point Pleasant, West Virginia. This Point Pleasant was nestled, I like that word, nestled, along the banks of the Ohio River, and something strange started that autumn 1966. So where does the legend start? Let's see here. Which button am I supposed to push? The legend started November 12th, 1966, when a cluster of gravediggers hard at work, backs hurting, blisters on their hand, just raised their head out of the ditches to drink a little bit of water, and they seen this massive soaring overhead thing darting from tree to tree. The gravediggers later described this thing as a huge brown winged human being. The gravediggers were so scared, which is saying a lot considering their job to dig holes. But they had no idea what was going on. Now, I personally think maybe someone put some moonshine in these guys' water, Grandpappy's cough syrup, something going on here. I don't know. But this was the first reported sighting of the Mothman, an undescribable creature that remains as frightening today as it was when the first witnesses laid eyes on it, the old gravediggers. So let's do a shout out there to the gravediggers. But on the night of November 15th, two young couples, we're not going to use names, or should we? Yeah, Roger and Linda, and the other couple, Steve and Mary. That's just how we'll do it. They were driving near the TNT area, which the TNT area was a World War II ammunition site right there around Point Pleasant. And suddenly they seen this thing that would haunt them forever. A towering figure with glowing red eyes. I mean, look at that thing. Massive wings, and it was shaped to resemble a man. Linda described it as a slender. He wasn't fat. Well, must not have been diabetic. Muscular man, about 7 feet tall with white wings. So the gravediggers say he had brown wings. Linda here says he had white wings. Now, maybe they're colorblind. I'm not too certain. She was unable to notice the face due to the brightness of the eyes. These eyes were bright. I mean, look how bright they are there on the screen. Let me get a shot of this old Gatorade Zero. So the distressed witnesses, the two couples there, sped away, reporting that the creature flew after their car and made a screeching noise. It pursued them all the way to Point Pleasant city limits. I guess it was scared of the traffic lights, maybe? Uncertain. But Roger, he was one of the eyewitnesses, and Steve, the two males, told the local paper at the time, the Point Pleasant Register, shout out to them, that the creature had a 10-foot wingspan, red eyes, According to the witnesses, the creature would fly at a ridiculous speed up to 100 mile an hour. So it must have been like a Maryland State police officer that's off duty flying down the interstate, just passing everybody. The beast chased the car, like I said, to the outskirts of town, and then it ran off into a field and disappeared. They knew at the time it sounded absurd, a flying giant moth with red tearing eyes chasing cars. Sculberry, I think that was, wasn't Steve, it was the other guy, Roger. He told the paper that it was just him that saw it. He wouldn't have said anything, but since all four of them saw the Mothman that day, it couldn't just be a fragment of his imagination. Reporters were skeptical. Folks believed that the Mothman was nothing more than an overgrown owl or eagle. Could you imagine a 7-foot bald American eagle? I mean, damn, that's America right there. The reporters did print with the description. More and more sightings began to occur, and the legend of the Mothman started to take shape. The Gettysburg Times reported that 8 additional sightings after the first 3 days of the report, including 2 volunteer firemen. Shout out to the volunteer firemen for spotting the Mothman, who said this was a huge bird with glowing eyes. Now, when this thing first came out, everyone did call it the bird, until a reporter in Charleston, West Virginia, decided that it looked more like a moth, the way they were describing it. So it turned into the Mothman. The local sheriff there, Mason County Sheriff George Johnson, which I tried to reach, and there's 250,000 George Johnsons in America, so I'm unable to locate. Still looking. He believed the sightings were due to a large bird-type thing. He called it a shit poke. I don't know if that's right or not. But one Salem, West Virginia resident reported strange patterns on his television, hearing a mysterious noise outside. So he went out with his flashlight. He shined the flashlight towards the direction of the noise, which makes complete sense. A witness 2 red eyes glowing back at him like they were bicycle reflectors. Some believe the Mothman was even responsible for the resident losing his dog. I did a little research. The dog was a German Shepherd named Bandit. So, sorry to hear about Bandit, but apparently the Mothman stole the dog, is what everyone's thinking. So, I got to push these buttons. I'm sorry. So, is there any scientific reasoning for the Mothman? Question mark. Is there any natural creatures that could be placed in all these sightings? Question mark. I mean, she said to read the script, so I guess I'll say question mark, right? But a professor from the state West Virginia University, WVU, Robert L. Smith, he stated this flying monster was never stalking the town, because apparently he had first-hand information. He said it was a large sandhill crane, which is up there on the thing there, which stands as tall as man and had bright red skin around his eyes. I looked up these cranes. There was never any born with reflecting bicycle reflectors. Some people took the explanation and ran with it and started saying that the crane was deformed because of the TNT area, all the chemicals, and the wildlife preserve there may have created a monster crane, sandhill crane. Other theories, excuse me, suggested that the Mothman, this guy here I just threw up on the screen, was just a prank. And when the word got out and the press started reporting this topic, people in the small town of Point Pleasant started to panic and just started to make up stories. Oh, that's good Gatorade, nice and cold. Locals were convinced that they saw the Mothman daily, and it was worth noting that the Mothman's physical appearance resembled several types of demons that they had bouts with their sleep some P word, whatever. So my question is, did these chemicals from the TNT plant get into the water system? Is that what happened here, like a Flint, Michigan type story, even though I don't know much about it? Flint, Michigan, I just know there was a water issue there. Did we have a bad case of the moonshine floating around? I don't know. But on December 15th of 67, just over a year of the first Mothman sightings, the Silver Bridge collapsed. It was packed with cars. The bridge was placed under extreme strain. The bridge, when it was originally built, was made for the lighter type vehicles, the Model Ts that weighed around, they say 1,500 pounds. I tested it. A Model T was $14.99. And then the modern day cars of the time, the 1966 Chevettes, weighed about 4,000. So some are thinking there was a weight issue. But when the part of the bridge failed, the whole thing come down. Without warning, a single eye-bar near the top of the bridge on the Ohio side. So maybe this was an Ohio problem. She cracked, and a chain snapped, and the bridge fell to pieces. People plunged into the icy waters with their cars in the Ohio River. 46 people died by either drowning, hypothermia, or being crushed in the wreckage. The bridge collapse was the second bizarre thing that happened in the Point Pleasant area and put Point Pleasant on the map between it and the Mothman sightings. It wasn't too long before everyone started putting the two cases together, saying that the Mothman was the reason for the bridge collapse. I can't find any data in my investigation here, dissecting of this situation, that as far as we've gotten right now, to really link that. But I wasn't there. Point Pleasant has now become home of the Mothman. And it continues this day with movies and books written about him, keeping him so much alive throughout the decades, which that's why we're still talking about. Oh, pardon me. It's also said that the Mothman predicts the disasters. He's been seen standing on top of newly constructed bridges right before disasters, including the Mexican swine flu outbreak of '09. We all know how bad that was. And even at the 2011 nuclear power plant disaster in Japan. Some say it was at Chernobyl in '86. I think it was '86. She didn't write that on the script. But the Mothman sightings have slowly declined in the late '60s. But often sightings emerge. In 2016, a man who recently moved to the area saw the creature jumping from tree to tree. So just like it was in the original report, the original sighting, he claimed that he was unaware of the legend until he saw the beast. I'm not buying that. Everyone's aware of the Mothman legend. If not, you're living under a rock somewhere. But that brings us to what really happened. And honestly, I think the only people that know what really happened are the Men in Black. I think they're the only ones that know. The Men in Black, they appeared around Point Pleasant during all these sightings. They've been linked to UFO sightings. We'll probably do a whole new episode on the Men in Black because I know Malia loves the Men in Black. I watched Men in Black with Will Smith. It was a great movie. But these Men in Black, they would go visit the witnesses, like a reporter, Mary. They questioned her about the creature. One of them said also threatened other Mothman witnesses. A friend of Mary's, her name was Dottie, spoke on the subject through lots of interviews. She said that they were frightening. They blinked their eyes real fast. Other witnesses, Linda Sculberry, She said they wore black hats and black sunglasses. They drove black Cadillacs. They looked like human beings, but their skin was somewhat transparent. You could see their veins in their hands. Their fingers were extra long. They didn't know how to shake hands. Some of their verbiage was wrong, so maybe I'm the man in black because I have a tough time talking. I get so wound up. I'm sorry. But one of the cars that would follow people around, they followed Linda around, 3 people in the car. They went as far as following her to a drive-through at a restaurant. I don't know if that was a Tasty Freeze, but I miss Tasty Freeze while we're talking about that. But also, like, one of them was carrying cameras around, trying to take pictures of the witnesses of the Mothman. So these people would take down their license plate numbers, give them to the police, and these numbers would come back to nobody. Like, nobody owned this car. So it's kind of strange. I don't know if it's government stuff, but like I said, we'll dig into the Men in Black. That's definitely going to be one of our podcasts here. I know Malia wants to get into the crime stuff, which is great too. So we got a lot of work to do. But John Keane, he's a big UFO guy. He chased these people, Men in Black, around. He attempted to confront them. He had local police looking for him. When he was in West Virginia and Ohio, people would call his hotel and say, "Hey, the Men in Black are here." He would race over to the location, but they were gone by the time he got there. He reported them driving black Cadillacs, and then next thing you know, the Men in Black tried to outsmart the great citizens of West Virginia and changed them to Volkswagens. But like I said, they often had fake license plates or license plates that didn't come back to the vehicles, or come back to the people is what I should say. I'm sorry there. But John, he was even in New York City, and people would come up and take pictures of him, and then they'd take off running. So the Men in Black's a real mystery that we're still digging in with all this Mothman stuff. But Mothman became a huge thing in Point Pleasant. It brings people there every year. The third weekend in September, they have a Mothman festival. The first festival started in, I believe, circa 2002. They were brainstorming ways to make money for the town, and that's what they come up with. And it's a great event. I was out there this year. It was a great event. In 2002, they had about 12,000 people visit. They got themselves a 12-foot statue out there. If you ever go out there, get your picture taken with it. There's also YouTubes that live feed this damn statue 24/7, so you can see all the weird people come up and leave it money, rub its butt. We were out there at the festival. They were dropping marijuana off to the old Mothman. So it's pretty cool. Like I said, it's the third weekend of September every year. 2025 was just last weekend. We were out there. Up to 32,000 people visited this festival. It's very unique, very friendly. We're actually out there. I got a picture here. As soon as me and Malia got there, we seen the Mothman. Here he is up on the screen, and I was like, we got to get over there and get a picture with the guy before he takes off. And next thing you know, he broke his ankle. Did a little research while we were out there. Apparently, this Mothman is not the real Mothman. So don't want our viewers to be concerned here. This was actually a actor who broke his ankle as the Mothman. Before we left, they did put him in the body bag. It's kind of sad. But while I was out there, also I had a lot of beer with the Mothman. Got totally wasted, as you can tell right here. Just drunk. Man, I look terrible. I probably ought to start dressing a little bit better. Maybe shave. I don't know. Had a few beer with the Mothman. It's pretty cool. But like I said, there's 1,000 unanswered questions. You know, the Barkley brought the gurney in. I threw it all on the table, and I still have all kinds of questions. This podcast, and if you go in and dig into every little detail, every little sighting, every little everything about this thing, you're talking about a 4-hour podcast. So what I wanted to do was just skim some of the facts, get it out there, and then Malia will come in, and she'll tell us what really happened. She'll go into more detail because she's a lot smarter than me. She'll dig into this a lot better. So this is going to be another episode soon. Be a part 2, a real version of this. You can also go on YouTube's with 2 S's. YouTube's 2 S's. And look up stories. There's definitely better podcasts out here about all these details. But like I said, we're still digging into it. We'll come back with more facts when we get this thing better dissected. But until then, we just wanted to get some content out there. Like I said, go follow us on Facebook, the YouTubes, the Autopsy Room. Search us up. Send us some questions. If you have any input that you want with the Mothman that we could do on part 2, do that as well. But until next time, when we discuss some other subject, good night, everybody. God bless you. Sweet dreams.